Hello everyone, this is Mr. Wolf, and we are continuing to read Fred Korematsu Speaks Up, written by Laura Atkins and Stan Yogi, illustrated by Yutaka Houlette, and published by Hayday Books. In the description below you'll find a link for where you can purchase your own copy of Fred Korematsu Speaks Up, and similar to previous chapters, this includes some very offensive words that I don't feel comfortable saying out loud, but they will be on the screen. So we are on to Chapter 5. Deciding to Defy. Police raid the Korematsu home, taking flashlights, cameras, anything they say can be used to send signals to the enemy. The people at the factory next door install a bright spotlight and shine it on Fred when he stands in front of his house. They think he and his family are spies because they look like the people who bombed their country. My country too, Fred thinks. Then President Franklin D. Roosevelt signs an order allowing the military to force all Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans on the West Coast from their homes. Soon they will have to move to what the government calls assembly centers. Really, prisons. It is unclear when this forced removal will take place, just that it will be soon. Fred feels the chaos like a tornado tearing up houses. His parents scramble. What will happen to their nursery? They have to figure out what to bring, only allowed what they can carry in their hands. All Fred can think about is staying with Ida. He comes up with a plan. They will move away from the West Coast to a state where Japanese Americans can still be free. He tells his parents that he wants to leave California rather than report to the prison camp. You're old enough to know what to do, his parents say. No time to think about his problems. Go ahead. Fred rents a room at a boarding house until Ida is ready to move away with him. He doesn't feel like a criminal for disobeying the government's orders. He knows he is a citizen and should have the same rights as any American. But to get those rights, he has to pretend to be someone else. Fred changes his name to Clyde Sarah and says he is Spanish Hawaiian. He is able to hide in front of everyone because people can't always tell someone is Japanese American. He feels strangely free. Living on his own, dating Ida, riding on buses, going to movies. But this feeling shatters when he looks at newspapers. Headlines scream, blank this and blank that. He will not buy those ugly words. Then one day, Fred sees pictures in the newspaper of Japanese Americans marched into prison camps. He thinks about his parents, his brothers, stuck inside. May 30th, 1942, Fred is walking down the street when a police car drives up. A policeman climbs out. He wants to know who Fred is. Fred tells the officer his made-up name, hoping he will believe it. Then an army jeep pulls over. More policemen talk. Fred waits. And then they arrest him, sweeping his freedom away. We are going to go back because there was a picture with a caption. So we have a picture. The government put up posters like these in West Coast areas where Japanese Americans lived, ordering all people of Japanese ancestry to report to be sent to prison camps. Forced removal and imprisonment. And we're going to begin again with the vocabulary words. Evidence, a visible sign of having done something. Executive order, an order given by a president to government officials. Government agents searched the homes of Japanese American families, like Fred's, for evidence that they might be disloyal. The Constitution states that police officers cannot search people's homes without a good reason to suspect they have committed a crime. but government officials searched Fred's home even though there was no cause to think anyone in Fred's family had done anything wrong. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19th, 1942. This allowed military leaders to force Japanese Americans to move. Soon afterward, Lieutenant General John L. DeWitt, the military commander in charge of the western states, ordered all Japanese Americans off the West Coast. He thought they could be spies. They would have to go to prison camps. The Constitution says that citizens have the right to a fair trial if they are accused of breaking the law. But General DeWitt's orders did not give Japanese Americans the chance to have trials to prove that they were not spies. We have some pictures. We have a picture of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and government agents searched homes for items they thought could be used to send signals to ships or planes, and anything that might link a family to the Empire of Japan. And we have a question that you can answer in the comments below. Have you ever been punished for something you didn't do? And we are going to continue going. We have one more vocabulary word, violate. To break or fail to follow a rule or law. Fred's family had to figure out what to do with their nursery and home. Eventually they found renters. After the government gave them formal orders to move, they had just days to decide what to take with them. The government allowed Japanese Americans to take to the prison camps only 1 or 2 suitcases per person, so they had to decide quickly what to do with their belongings. Sometimes friends and neighbors took care of Japanese Americans' property, but others took advantage of Japanese Americans, buying for little money the possessions they could not take with them. Very few people spoke up to say that the government was violating Japanese Americans' rights. We have some more photos and paintings. An armed guard stands next to a bus that will take Japanese Americans to the prison camp where Fred's family was sent. The government assigned each Japanese American family a number. Everyone had to attach tags with the number to themselves and their belongings, like this girl has on her jacket. The Korematsu family number was 21538. This painting by Henry Sugimoto, called Junk Shop Man Took Away Our Icebox, shows a man taking away a family's refrigerator prior to them going to the prison camp. The power of pictures. The United States government created posters and pamphlets portraying Japanese as evil and dangerous. Newspapers and magazines were also filled with these kinds of pictures. Many people who saw these pictures again and again grew to fear Japanese and Japanese American people. The scary figure with a knife is wearing a hat with the Empire of Japan's flag. China was fighting on the same side as the United States during World War II. The United States Army created and distributed this pamphlet with instructions on how to tell apart people of Chinese and Japanese ancestry. Their goal was to uncover Japanese Americans in hiding, like Fred. Pictures like these also supported racial stereotypes. We have a timeline. Timeline taking place entirely in 1942. February 19th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signs Executive Order 9066. March 24th, Lieutenant General John L. DeWitt begins issuing orders forcing Japanese Americans from their homes into prison camps. March, Fred decides not to go to prison camp and moves to a boarding house. May 8th, Fred's parents and brothers are forced to move to a prison camp. May 30th, Fred is arrested. So that is the end of Chapter 5. Once again, there is a link in the description for where you can purchase your own copy, especially on pages like this where there are so many incredible details. There's nothing like having the book of your own. So I really recommend you head on down to the description and purchase your own copy of Fred Korematsu Speaks Up. Thank you so much for reading along with